everything fits within this model.
Okay, so what is this model?
The shortcut that I like to use is control, fear, manipulation, and hate. That's the basis upon which it works, and separation. So introducing a conversation that will cause separation instantly. Then you have parties, and they have to fight one another. It's been going for a long time.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.
Hi everybody, this is Crypto Rich, and I don't know what I'm going to be talking about in this conversation. Well, actually I do, but I don't know where the conversation is going to go, because this is like a video interview like no other that I've done. Now, before I continue and introduce my guest, please subscribe, follow me on Twitter, CryptoRichYT, join my official Telegram announcements channel, and if you're watching this on YouTube, please come and support me on bit.ly/CryptoRich3Speak, bit.ly/CryptoRichOdyssey, and bit.ly/CryptoRichRumble, which isn't even on there. Hey, David. Hey, Alenka. Thank you so much for making yourself available. I've been waiting to have this conversation with you for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and we're now ready. And I am a little bit, I don't know where we're going to go, because I think we should start with, I suppose, our background, because you and I have been friends for many, many years. And I knew you I met you through an educational company that we were both involved in. Do you want to say a little bit about yourself, and then a little bit about yourself, Alenka? Not too much, but just enough for people to get an idea that you're a real human being.
Yeah, well, we met about 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I should say, I went to university. Not everyone does, but I was lucky enough to do that. And whilst there, I studied mathematics and management. And I became fascinated in why do organizations fail? So I just want to plug that, because that might have some relevance to the conversation we're going to get into.
Okay.
I lived in Grenfell Tower. So most people probably listening to the call are in the UK, or they may be overseas.
Mostly in the US. You might want to give a bit of background to Grenfell.
Okay, so Grenfell Tower was the worst civilian catastrophe in the United Kingdom since the Second World War.
Right.
And 72 people, half of whom I knew as friends and neighbors, died in one night. It was a catastrophic fire, and it was kind of predicted in that my mate Ed wrote a blog to say the most likely outcome of the management of this system is a catastrophic fire in a building such as ours. And so we had that conversation over a cup of tea on the 21st floor in my flat, in my living room, prior to the fire.
You lived in Grenfell Tower?
21st floor.
Right.
Yeah, 14 people lived on that floor, 7 people died. I wasn't in the town the night of the fire. Basically, no one above that floor survived. And my mate Marcio had to basically sort of stumble, fall down the stairs about 4:30 in the morning, and they lost their baby daughter. They've had a baby daughter, but they lost an unborn boy at that time. So catastrophe, catastrophe, catastrophe. And that's why I refer to, like, my curiosity at university, why do organizations fail? It sent me on a whirlwind. I had to understand how could that come about in the 21st century in London, which left me kind of with no friends, not knowing what I was doing, but pursuing something that I just had to get to the bottom of that. And that took me a few years.
Why no friends? I don't understand. Because
I ended up spending a lot of time on my own.
Ah, okay.
It wasn't like a group exercise. I had to go, at the end of it, the only place I could look was inside for the answer.
Okay.
And that'll do for an introduction for now.
Right.
Definitely, because that brings us right into the middle of what we usually talk about to people.
Alenka, anything you want to say about yourself?
Well, I'm Alenka. I am actually from Berlin, born Berlin in West Berlin in '82, and I did a number of things in my life, from editing movies to writing children's books and other odd jobs to get some money. And now I'm here in the Mediterranean where we are, and I met David, and yeah, well, our mission now is, or or my mission now, like I'm stepping into my purpose of bringing light to the world, and yeah, that's basically ours as well. So it's not only mine, but yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now, you and I, we'd not been in contact for a few years, and then a mutual friend of ours said, "Oh, David, I don't know what to say. I really don't know what to say. This is like a whole other domain we're going to be talking about, right?" So let's go back to you search for the answer inside yourself, and then that led you somewhere. You discovered something.
Yeah, I read a lot of books, right? So I'd had my 20, 25 years of curiosity about why organizations fail. And then I read some books. And at some point, reading the books that I read, I had this moment, like when everything, oh, yeah, like Archimedes in the bath. I just went, I understand. I know why it always happens and why it always happens the same way. Like whether it's the refinery in, in Texas, there was a refinery that exploded. It's Piper Alpha in the UK. All the major disasters, the Challenger, the Columbia, they're all the same. And I know why. Like, who do I call? Like, and of course, no one was interested in the answer. But then the road led within, because it was like, what I realized was everything I was taught as a child didn't make sense anymore. And pretty much every way I ran my life and all the assumptions that I based my life on no longer worked, because the system that we're taught to follow doesn't work.
Okay.
And it's been around for about 12,000 years, was what I concluded around 2018, 2019. We all follow it blindly without questioning what we're doing. But it leads to disasters, it leads to hospital queues, it leads to war. The situation on the planet right now is dire. It's failure everywhere. But we're all following this system blindly, it's a bit harsh. We're not necessarily blind about that, we are waking up to it.
Okay. Now, 12,000 years ago, what that reminds me of is the stuff I've seen about Graham Hancock and the Great Flood or something. And
Yeah.
I know that we're following a system blindly because, I don't think I got what you're talking about, but I know about the history of schools and why schools were set up. And then it has people just not question, not inquire, not discover, just has them follow orders. So then, they line up, roll up their sleeves without question to have themselves injected with a toxic concoction that Pfizer profits from, and so do the politicians they bribe. But you're talking about something else.
Well, it's the whole play. Everything fits within this model.
Okay, so what is this model?
The shortcut that I like to use is control, fear, manipulation, and hate. That's the basis upon which it works, and separation. So introducing a conversation that will cause separation instantly. And then you have the parties, then they have to fight one another. It's been going for a long time.
And it wasn't like that before?
I don't know. And there we're going to get into some slippery subjects, which we may get into later. I don't want to go into other times or other civilizations or the work of Graham Hancock, or there are people like Paul Cook doing fabulous work. You can find him on YouTube, who's uncovering in plain sight in Nottingham structures which are pre-flood. But that's a different conversation.
That is a different conversation. Okay, fair enough. So you discovered something.
Well, I had this moment,
this revelation, this eureka moment, right? And then what?
Well, then I had to tell people, stop, don't do it. It doesn't make sense. But of course, no one could really hear that. And I even rang the BBC, we've got to talk about the system, because it doesn't. And they were like, well, can you phone us when you've got the answer?
Yes. Okay. So how does anybody know? How would the BBC know? How would I know that you're not one of these crackpots, right? It's gone completely loopy, no longer connected to reality. You ring up the BBC, you're like, oh, here we go, another one, right?
I can't.
Well,
right. Okay. Alenka?
What did you just say, David?
I said I can't tell them I'm not a crackpot.
What did you call them again recently?
Crackpot, loopy. He's gone loopy Lou, calling up the BBC saying, I've got an answer.
And then again, why not, really? And I wouldn't they would call us that, I'm quite sure. I guess. I mean, maybe there are people there that are a bit more open-minded, but as soon as you do the work, the journey within, and you come to terms with who you really are, and I mean, a lot of people are doing that, right? There's a lot of people who are coming to themselves and who are realizing that we are way more powerful than we've ever been taught, right? And it's never been topic that. So a lot of people are coming to terms with that, and that helps us to step into a different reality, right? Because we can use our power to create something better, and that's basically what we do. Yeah, creating a better life. And why are we not loonies? We are not loonies because it works. Well, because I feel pretty good. I have a pretty good life, and I mean, I don't have everything sorted, but the thing is that it's not about being sorted. The old system, or right, the old system taught us, because that's not what the new system is about. So it's a lot of like unlearning. I mean, that's a term that's also quite common now, and to actually learn something new, right? And that means we don't go back to like the normal, like getting the job and paying the taxes and buying the house. I mean, we can still buy houses if we want, but it might be a bit different, and it's more about the inside, right? Listening to the heart and coming back to that, and going out in nature and being more connected with the real us, because like iPhones or smartphones or whatever, computers and walls and stuff and steel and all that is not really us, if we're honest. Like it's more poisonous for us than anything. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. And I just want to go back to the crackpot loopy-loo terms that I used, right? Because that's not, there are people throughout history who have presented new ideas that have been a challenge to the establishment or to the crowd or to the herd, and they've been derided. Whether it was Copernicus or Mahatma Gandhi or Nelson Mandela as a terrorist, right? Or Darwin or whoever, whether or not you agree with them, even people like Jeremy Corbyn, he's an anti-Semite because he proposes peace, really. Right? He's the one he's the dangerous one, because he's this militant, unwavering stand for peace and negotiation and conversation. And then all the people who are saying, look, these injections are dangerous, be careful, be careful. Obviously they were the conspiracy theorists. So I can see that. And then what it does, it prevents people from inquiring. It prevents people from discovering and for looking into it. And I am interested in inquiring and discovering. And one of the things you said, Alenka, is about discovering the power that we have within. So what is the power that we have within that we don't know about ordinarily?
Well, it's limitless. And just let me come back to what you just said, right?
Yeah.
The thing is that historically, right, what happened over all these 12,000 years, right, that the system exists, is that, or just about whatever, is that people got, like, we all got killed for those attempts of saving the world, or of changing the world, right? The people got killed, and so it's normal that people are resistant, right? Because when you believe in past lives, that's why I'm referring about like us as well, because obviously it's all us building the system the way it is, because we come here as souls to learn. So we build the system we wanted, even if it's not pleasant, but we chose all this to make experiences as souls, right? So we're always changing roles, victim, perpetrator, because we want to know as souls on the higher levels, right, how that feels, because the human existence is quite unique. So yeah, it's quite normal that people are hesitant to actually step out and do something, because we have been killed so many times for that, right? And the consequences were terrible. And it is all in ourselves, right? Our bodies have all that stuff saved, right? You know about how the mom gives to her child, and like, and it's also, yeah, our own experience that comes with it, like our soul experiences. So it is, and it's, I mean, it's the same for me, right? It's not necessarily easy for me to come out. It's yeah. But what was the question again?
Well, I made a comment. The question was about what are the powers, right? But David just raised his hand.
Yeah, the powers. Yeah, I mean, we're like, we are so much more than this human existence of flesh and blood and eating and whatever. There is like, and that's what we can find out when we connect within, right? When we connect to our heart and we open up the channels to the universe, right? And we can connect to the divine, and we can either, I mean, there's a lot of people that are channeling now, right? There's a lot of people who are doing that, right? They're stepping into their like more internal power. Then it's not about power as in weapon power or something like that, right? It's more about the internal power, because it makes us how do you say it? You can't really, once you step into that internal power, you cannot, like, it, the human existence doesn't matter. It's not, the words are terrible. It's just not, you can't hurt me, basically. Like, you can't, because I'm not afraid of death anymore. You know, things like that. So I can easier step out of the fear of the system and stuff, because I've confronted myself with all those fears, and I've looked at them, and I can say, all right, I'm not going to get killed. So I can do that now. I can live a different life, because we are in different times now. The frequencies are rising, right? The whole planet is elevating. Elevating, is that the right word? But yeah. So and that makes me obviously more powerful towards the system. Right? Because I can say, all right, it's okay. I know the system, right? I know how it works. I've lived in it enough, and I choose a different way now, a different path. And you can't really stop me, because I know I'm good. You know, and so that's
Thank you, David. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to refer to autistic people. Oh God, it's like labels, man. But like, where do you start? People who have special traits. They've been suppressed inside of the current system, because if you can't stomach it. So as a child, I saw angels, I saw light beings, I could hear people think, all of that stuff. As at age 3, I could sit at the dinner table, I could look at my family, and I knew what they were thinking about each other. I looked around the table, I worked out pretty quickly it wouldn't be welcome if I opened my mouth now. So I canned it, right? And I suppressed all my things that I could see and the things that I could do. I'm not the only one. Between 10 and 30%, maybe more, of the population have some of these traits suppressed, because the system will not tolerate those people standing up and saying, I see the divine in me and in others, and I can communicate in other realms. Now, what's going to happen, I guess, is those people are going to start to express their abilities in the next few years, and it's going to radically transform this planet.
Okay, that's pretty amazing. I don't doubt it, right? Like, I'm not saying no, that's not the case. Because one of the things I know for myself is that I'm always confronting the limits of my knowledge. There's so much I don't know. There's so much to be discovered. And what I notice has, and I see this with my friends and family and people around in general, that if it doesn't fit like my own personal paradigm, their own personal paradigm, which is actually an inherited discourse that's just all around, well, obviously it's nonsense. And one of the things I discussed, I don't know if it was Pam Gregory or Joni Petrie or something, and people who watch my videos regularly, I listen to a lot of the tarot stuff and the psychic stuff and the astrology stuff, the Western and sidereal and Vedic, and I don't understand it all, but I'm willing to inquire and go beyond my existing and current frameworks. That's how come I ended up home educating, and I ended up purchasing Bitcoin many, many years ago. Okay, so I've heard about these energies from space, that the way that the planet is in alignment with the rest of the galaxy, it's shifting, it's exposing us to energies that we haven't been exposed to, and that these energies could activate dormant DNA. And this dormant DNA, once activated, will give us access to whole other powers that have lain dormant, including the powers of being psychic. Now I'm interviewing you, right? But I'm going to keep talking a little
It's
bit.
good. I'm just nodding my head like,
Yeah. So one of the things I was told many years ago by a guy who studied cetaceans, which are dolphins and whales and stuff, is that dolphins can scan each other.
Hmm.
I don't quite understand it. They can do an ultrasound scan or whatever. So if you and I, David, are dolphins and we're swimming along, right? And I ask you, I don't need to ask you how you are because I can read through your, I don't know what, right? It's some whole other paradigm. So if you said to me, "Oh, I've got a headache," no, you haven't, because I can tell, right? So you wouldn't say that. So then what you have is you have these, and I'm speculating here on what it's like to be a dolphin, but operating with integrity. So then if we had psychic powers, well, then we couldn't tell lies. No, no, no. We wouldn't even bother, right? And then I know there have been civilizations, I don't know whether it's Taxila or Harappa or Mohenjo-daro, which is in modern day Pakistan, where people didn't have any sort of weaponry to engage in war. They had weaponry to catch food, but not to engage in war. And then perhaps if we had these psychic abilities, or Lord knows what else, and we were in harmony, then we wouldn't war. There wouldn't be the control and the hate and the fear and the manipulation. Am I
Yeah, I'd wait about
out of
23
words?
years.
Sorry, David,
Like
I'm out of words now. Over to you.
if you wanted a timeline for getting somewhere close to what you're talking about, I'd give it about 23 years.
What do you
I'm
mean?
expecting radical change. I just don't know what it's going to look like.
Right.
But all the things you're talking about, it's all completely possible, right? Once one chooses to no longer operate inside the system of control and hate and separation, and one wishes to, and one wholeheartedly gives one's entire being and one's heart and one's mind and one's soul to the purpose of freeing oneself, it becomes relatively easy.
Okay. But how to do that in a world that's dominated by Cartesian thought? I've come across this idea that we're all one and we're all connected and we're not separate, through different philosophies and everything. But there's one thing coming across it as a concept, but the other is how to ongoingly experience it without because I can't live all day long meditating, or without the use of psychotropic drugs.
Yeah. Yeah, I spent every day meditating on every single thought I had for about 3 years, and that helped. But not everyone's going to do that. So we are setting up a course. We're going to launch our next course in May. We're going to support people through this transitionary period as best we can, because not everyone's going to devote their entire life to waking up.
Right. Okay.
So you need a team, you need support, you need guidance, like all the right things you would do in any good community support structure.
Okay, so let's talk about this course, and I think that will also answer the question of what it is you did to access this as whatever it is as an experience.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll have the link to your website, which is energy-doctor.biz. So what is it? An online course?
The one in May will be online. We're also doing walks on the island of Gozo. We'll do some talks with people, and we're offering retreats. And we've got a couple of spaces here where people actually come and stay with us and get it full bore, like no messing around. If you really want it quick, right?
Yeah. How long does that take?
You could stay for a week. You could stay longer. If it was a month, you might need to get your own place here. We just want to make available the possibility for people to wake up real quick, because we're not pulling punches. I'm not a nice person. Like, I used to be very polite. Like, I used to be so kind and considerate, and like that person disappeared as part of my realization that I bought into behaving.
Yeah. And that's really good, because you're not nasty either. It's just like, just straight. Okay.
But that chaps, sometimes it chaps on the way in.
Yeah. Okay. So then now the online course, how long would that take? And what does that involve?
So that would be a 12-week period. We do a session once a week. It tends to last about an hour, can be a little bit longer. And what we do is we channel the divine Wow, Alenka does a bit. Do you want to explain, dear, how light language works?
Yeah, of course. So in our constellation, how we work together, David receives more channeling and clearer than I do yet. I'm not well, I'm getting a few words, but I'm not the one who does it in the courses yet. So David will be the one channeling the angelic realms and the Christ and the goddess Astrea and others. And the light language, in light language, it's Old Atlantean mostly that he's given. And the good thing about that is that it speaks directly to your soul. So the head will be just ignored. I mean, David gives, if he can, he gives an English translation so that people that the head can follow. But the power lies within. The power lies in the language speaking directly to the soul, so that healing can occur and chakras can be opened, and like without this mind in the way, which always starts with the construct again, and oh, is that possible? Oh, should I believe that? Oh, is he talking like, is he a lunatic or whatever, that so you go around that with the light language and actually access your inner self. And yeah, that's really beautiful and very powerful. So that's part of the courses. A maximum of a half an hour or something, and the rest would be like connecting, right? And that's what you've been mentioning before, right? It's so much about that we connect. And for the last course we did, there was people there. They said it was really like helping them to be right and to be good. Not good as in the way we learned it, but good as in that you can be within, right, and do good from inside in your life, even when the system and all that's from the outside is still so really weird, and you always ask yourself, is actually anything happening here? So it was very important for them to connect, right, once a week, to get together and be like, okay, it's all good, right? We're here together, we're in this together, right? We're supported, and not only by each other as humans, but by the divine, right, which comes through the channel then. So yeah, I hope that.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Now, I just want to say it works online, because you talked earlier about steel and how all these modern things keep us separate from everything.
Yeah.
I have a very different, everybody does, I think, right? Very different experience walking barefoot on the beach or in the woods or on, in the summer sunshine on the grass, to walking on asphalt. It's different being with you in person than it is online. So how do you get it to work online?
Well, it's the connecting bit, right? It was Germans. I mean, it's not what we are. That's true, but it is very helpful, right? I mean,
Right.
that we can have this chat now, that we can publish that on YouTube. Like that's all. It's very good. It supports us in the mission, right? And it makes it easier to connect worldwide for all of us, right? That we are starting to wake up and that we want to like change things and do stuff. So it's a tool we use. Yeah, it's obviously not sticks and wood and grass, but that's what we do when we go for a walk.
Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, so it works to connect and to have a chat like this now, and then the light language works in any way, because it's audio, right? It goes in, it speaks to your soul. You could do that on the phone even,
Right.
So
And
Okay.
it does make a difference to be with someone in person. So
yeah, definitely.
we're all aware of consciousness, whether you want to call it through quantum physics, a unified field. There is no distance in space and time between us, like all that, whatever it all means, right? So I can just channel and it will affect you, doesn't matter where you are geographically. And then if we do spend time with people, it is more powerful.
Sure.
There's no getting around that.
Hence the opportunity with the retreats that you do. Okay.
And you can come and walk the land here. This is divine land, and the veil is very thin on Gozo, so you can connect quite easily here. There are cosmic rays that come here that don't really come to anywhere else on the planet at the moment. It's a very special place. If anyone's into spirituality, this is a good place to connect.
Very interesting. Okay, very interesting. Now, channeling.
Okay.
What I think it is opening myself up to energies from outer space or something? What? Spirits? Tell me, what is it?
The easiest way I could explain it is you're opening up yourself to your highest powers. So you have access to other realms and other dimensions.
Okay.
I don't think that's too hard to grasp for people on the call, but we are multidimensional in our reality. So we may be existing simultaneously in other realities or in different timelines currently. So while we're here, part of us is here, a greater part is elsewhere. So what the bleep is the other bit doing if only 5% of me is on planet Earth? Why haven't I got the other 95%, right? So a channel is opening the channel to allow that power to come down to Earth. Now, you may channel other beings. Some people are channeling the Z's, for instance. There's a fantastic channeler named Lee Harris. He's channeling a group of, they call themselves extraterrestrials. That's not the method that we're using in our mission, right? We're more telling people, no, you can channel your own divine self. And then if you get information from other beings of light or other aliens, fantastic, but that's optional. What you're doing is you're opening to all of you, like every aspect that you could have here. And that's kind of good.
Okay. And I notice I have a choice listening to you. I can either dismiss it, like, oh, this is just absolute bunkum and nonsense, or I could go on the journey myself and look to discover. Because if I do that, one, I'm then actually going to confirm. I mean, I'm not going to know otherwise, right? I'm just not going to know otherwise. And then, of course, experience is the best teacher. And then if you are talking something that's okay, well, then I get to access all these other higher powers that you're talking about.
Which basically is what, I've got to say this, it's not often I'm not going to swear, but like this is what the church has prevented people from doing for thousands of years. The church has prevented people from accessing their own powers. That Yeshua, who we call Jesus, unfortunately, but Yeshua was his name, he was teaching, you have it all within, and he was killed. Because that was before Nelson Mandela, when it was prison. That was when people were just killed for saying what he said.
Yeah.
So we're not teaching anything different. It's just that we're not in that time, so they can't kill us as easily.
Right. And then the Bible's being rewritten and everything, so his message has been corrupted, manipulated, and used by other actors in order to control us by instilling fear and having us divided from each other and hating each other to manipulate us so that they have further control. Okay, I can get that. I can completely get that.
And what we're fast approaching is the end of that game. So I don't know how to explain it. Is it the 12,000 year period? You're familiar with that? Like we've been in the 12,000 year period and the Mayan calendar and all the predictions and the Hopi Indians, and something's coming to an end.
And
that's the system of control and hate.
Vedic astrology or something like that? The end of the Kali Yuga?
Precisely, and the beginning of the Golden Age. We're on the cusp, right? So the system is now dissolving. You look at Russell Brand, amazing work he's doing. The people that are putting out the message that the system is corrupt, like, has everyone worked it out yet? This is all like, it's all the beginning of the end.
Okay, which is good news.
Which is like, we can have a good time now.
Which is really good news. Which is really good news. And one of the things I say, Dave, because I don't know if you've seen any of the videos on my channel or had a look through, right? Because it used to be exclusive crypto content. But last 4 years, life has got extremely interesting, far too interesting, right? And I've been consumed by fear and anxiety about what's coming down the line. But more and more, I see little green shoots of awakening, and that the Great Reset is going to fail. It's going to be very messy. And then one of the things I notice is, because in my community, I'm a little bit on the edge. And I don't say everything there is to say because I don't think people are going to hear it, and it's like, oh my God, there he goes, Rich. He's off on another one. He's really off. And then I meet you, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm just a baby. I'm just a baby. So hopefully, people watching this will see there's some sort of conduit to a whole other forms of knowledge, including bloody Atlantean. What do you mean by talking Atlantean? What is this?
Go on, David.
Can I speak the language?
Up to you. I'm not going to censor you.
Okay. Kelai mi homakai. So I give thanks to all the people who listen to this call. Kolai he lamel. There's no way back. We are moving into the time of divinity on earth.
Kolai mi.
Don't ask me what I just said.
Well, you just said. You translated it.
Yeah.
Thanks to all the people watching this video, and that we are moving forward to a new age, and there's no going back.
Yeah.
But then why did you say don't ask you what you said?
Now he's not. He can't repeat.
Oh, okay. You can't repeat. Oh, right. Okay. So
you have to watch it again.
So where's it coming from?
Well, it's coming from a different realm, which may be beyond space and time.
Okay. Now I don't know Atlantean, but I don't know Hopi either. And I only know English and some duty booty broken Urdu, right? So how do I know it's not some other language? I don't know. What was it? Some of the Native American languages that they used in the Second World War, the US Army used or whatever for sending signals, or the kind the language that the Peter Howe people make, or some sort of tonal language like Mandarin or something. How do I know that? Just
what I found is there are some similarities. Some of the Native American languages are descendant from what would have been one of the Atlantean dialects, because they remained in some integrity. Those nations, those beautiful, they inhabited the planet in a very profound manner, really right up until a couple of hundred years ago. They maintained some integrity of thought and spirit and connection to the land and the animals, which we unfortunately have forgotten.
Yes.
So the language contains the wherewithal to understand and to connect properly with your natural environment, for instance. It also contains the knowledge for you to be able to contact the spiritual dimension of yourself. So it opens up all those channels. The only way to test whether it works is to listen and then see what happens to you.
Okay.
I was just gonna say, yeah. So it's the human mind always wants to know, right? That's the one that is like picking the knowledge bits and I gotta like explain this and how does that work and why is that true at all and who can tell me more about this and is that accurate and facts and stuff and and all this that's all part of the human mind. It's something what we find the answer to in our hearts when we listen to the channeling of David or someone else. Then you just find out, does it resonate with you? And that's the important bit. It's not about knowing for sure that it comes from XYZ and this one has said it before and the other one wrote a dictionary on it, or that's not part of the deal. That's more old system. It's more the mind. It's the one that wants to prove it rather than the one who's open for much more, which is not really explainable in human terms anymore. And just parts of it. Yeah. And you can definitely, I guess you can go about and puzzle and find out like who said what and how was that spelled and like to compare the languages you mentioned, to find out where there might be roots, but that's not the important bit. The important bit is that we or not for me, let's say, that's how I see it, obviously. The important bit is that we get the connection going, right? And that we can all open up to our higher powers.
Okay. The important bit is the actual experiential discovery. That's what I heard in what you're saying. And then before the discovery, like if I'm watching somebody riding a bicycle, or even if I'm watching somebody meditating, which I have done, I don't meditate. I don't know how to, right? Or, I don't know. I never actively... I'm watching somebody meditate. I'm watching you meditate, David. What I see you is you're sitting down in silence, right? And then I'm making all sorts of interpretations and theories and hypotheses about what's going on with you and where you might be sourcing it. But that's nothing like the actual experience of meditating. And it's the same deal with riding a bicycle. I watch Alenka, she whizzes past, and I'm reading about how does it happen and what is it, and force and velocity and speed and balance and all of that. And that's not the same as the actual experience. So I know I'm having a conversation about facts and understanding and knowledge and what is this, and I'm curious and how does it work and what about this and what about that. And that's not the same as actually experiencing and maybe even speaking Atlantean myself. Okay.
And then that gets really interesting because,
Then it
as
gets,
you and I
you
have heard,
what, you don't think this is interesting already and mind-boggling?
well, I want a different planet, right? So I get interested when other people can talk to me in other light languages.
Okay,
And
hold on,
then we can,
hold on. Not ready yet. Not yet. We'll come to that in a second. No, just so people know, Atlantean is the language of the people of Atlantis.
it's one of the languages. There were 12 sects within Atlantis, but we'll spend a little bit of time on that, but not too much. So anyone who's heard of Atlantis will be entirely familiar that there was a civilization that existed. Conservatively, it started around 55,000 BC, but there are many different estimates when that began. It was sourced from extraterrestrials that came down to planet Earth and built a civilization here. And it lasted until around 12,000 years ago. You can look at the Kali Yuga, you can look at Graham Hancock's work. There was a catastrophic disaster. He's done quite a good job of presenting that information to the world. At which time the civilization was obliterated, but the remnants are underneath everybody's feet. All you need to do is go and find some rock and stare at it for long enough and then start thinking, why are there so many straight lines and blocks in all these naturally man-made, precisely. The civilization that came here before us had powers that we can't imagine. The pyramids are like a tiny scale of what the things that they built.
Yes.
Tiny scale.
There's all that stuff that's inexplicable, the pyramids, Stonehenge. I watched the Graham Hancock series on Netflix and it was fascinating. And I can completely get how history gets changed. Let me give you a small example of how history gets changed, and I will come on to the other languages.
That's
right?
Great.
So my daughter, when she was younger, home educated, of course, she went to the library with her home educated mum, another friend of ours, and she was fascinated with Queen Victoria. She comes home with a book, and it's about Queen Victoria. And this little section she's showing me is about the Raj, the rule in India. And it talks about a war when the Indians opposed the British rule. And it referred to the war as the first Indian mutiny. Now, I said to my daughter, I was reading about this when I was in Pakistan. I was reading books written in Pakistan by Pakistanis and Indians about the rule of the British. And I said, do you know that first war was called the First War of Independence? So then it really depends on your perspective. And then what you have is the agents, I suppose, well, different agencies, the Indian agencies vying for control, so they get to say, and then the British vying for control so that their say dominates. And then history gets obliterated. Like people don't know where schools come from. People don't know about the Federal Reserve and how fiat currency is a complete fraud. People don't know about the history of gold and how important gold is, right? All these sorts of things. So then it's not a surprise that it's much, much worse.
Oh, yes.
Think. Much, much worse. And then what we have done as human beings throughout history is we've fallen for lies like they're the truth. And one example that I hope everybody will get is formula milk. We were sold that is as good as, if not better, than mother's milk. And whites, and it just became standard practice. Formula milk, and that's now changing. So that lie about formula milk has been embedded for less than 100 years, but there'd be other lies that have become embedded for much, much longer because it served the interests of those who were powerful. Okay, Alenka.
I'm just saying, because it's always good to repeat that, it served all our interests of having this system established the way it was for this period of time until now. We are ready to change that.
Okay.
Because we are all in this.
Right, because then you're not making a separation between me and the elites, but I'm not like them. I didn't want to stab people with a toxic injection. Go on, David. Just speak. You don't have to raise your hand.
No, this needs hand raising, right? So my soul's journey, the purpose of my soul was to complete something on earth. And as part of that process, I had to take responsibility that back in the day, I did something really dark, like really bad. Like you don't, like, I'm not going to talk about it on your channel. I've talked about some of this on our YouTube channel, but not all of it. There's stuff we all agreed to do in service of everyone else before we came to the planet. Then we forgot and we did some dark, dark, dark things. We killed lots and lots. We exterminated, we genocide, like the stuff we all did. And we've
you're talking about past lives as well as this current life. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry. So I should just like say I'm a believer in past lives. You know, part of my journey, I did the Landmark Forum and I worked out lots of stuff about this life and decisions I made as a child and what happened and the I made about that and how that affected my life. What I came to realize is that didn't answer everything. I was still dealing with things that didn't work in my life and I hadn't worked out my relationships. And suddenly it led me through a healing process to start to challenge myself. Maybe there was something before this life. And then I started to have these incidences of remembering. And that started to answer the questions I had about my life today.
That's amazing. That's completely amazing. And I can chime with that because I did the Landmark Forum as well. And one of the things I it was completely transformational. And one of the things I got responsible for the shitty things I'd done in this life, but also got that there is so much more that I don't know. And there's always more that I don't know. And there's always more to discover. So then it left me kind of open to, okay, things like Bitcoin and things like home education, let me take a look, and things like not believing Pfizer and the government and the WEF. Okay. All right. So there's shitty things we've done in this life.
So one of the things the church taught us, which is diametrically opposed to what Yeshua told us, because he was channeling the Christ 2,000 years ago, and he told everyone, you've had past lives, and that's why your life doesn't work. And that was deleted out of the Bible.
Wow. Wow. That's really interesting. My son has become a practicing Muslim, and it's not because of me, David. Right? It's not because of me. Or the explosions go off on your computer. Anyway, my son has gone off, has become. Now, in Islam, past lives, it's forbidden, I think. I should ask him because but I go to Quaker meetings when I do something, right? But I've had readings with a psychic over the last few years. And I may have her, I'm going to give her link in the description below her website because I just think she's amazing. And she said stuff that she couldn't possibly have known. My last reading was a few weeks ago. I mean, I've had readings with it started with lockdown because I was just anxious about what was going on. I thought, okay, let me have a look. So I had a reading with her a few weeks ago. And when I booked the reading, it was a couple of weeks before it was going to happen. I started thinking about an uncle of mine. I thought, how come he hasn't come through? And while I'm having the reading, and she does it over WhatsApp, she's not even looking at me. She says, oh, and I'm thinking of my uncle. And she says, oh, your uncle's come through. And then she tells me stuff about my uncle. And I'm like, oh my God, that's what he was like. And then sometime after the reading, I phone a cousin of mine. We had a shared uncle. We shared this uncle. And I said this to him because he lived in Pakistan and spent more time with my uncle. And he was like, yeah, that's him. That's him. Yeah, that's what he thought of you. And it was all good. And what I got in touch with was how much I loved him, how much I still love him. So, and I can't, that's experiential. I got access to something, my love for him. And even now when I'm talking about it and thinking about it, I'm present to my love for him. And he's passed away. A very, very loving man. And I loved him dearly. So there is something to be discovered. And I could be like, oh, this is just hocus pocus. But okay, well, let me try it out. Because I had similar stuff about my mum and dad always come through. She described my mum and dad, how they are. And then you'll know this from personally, right? And the last reading, she said to me, oh, there was a third child. And he's still around. He didn't want to live a life handicapped because of his brain damage. Now, you know that I had a son who died after 5 weeks because of brain damage. Okay, I don't know what else to say. So, sorry, Alenka?
No, well, I was just going to say it's all part of you mentioned it before. It's this, we are all one, right? We have one consciousness, right? That we are individual humans is one bit, but we have, what's it called? Well, the consciousness that, that we can all tap into. And that's why it's so, like, as soon as we say they about the politicians and about we create separation, right? And that's not how we're going to fix the world. We're going to fix the world if we take responsibility for being all one and having been here as perpetrators and victims and all these things, and taking responsibility for all of that, and coming out of it with all right, okay, and now we can actually do something, and that's all of us. And it is about, if I constantly like make them wrong, right, and then the energy they receive is not the one of change, and we are all one and we're gonna be like good. So that's all, and that's why the psychic, right, that's why things like that work, because there is ways to access that, right, and she can access this knowledge, like
and also in what you said, 1 second, David, is that not only do I create a separation when I talk about the elites, which I do a lot, by the way, I then convince myself, or I keep buying the lie that somehow not only am I separate, I'm different, and then I ignore the potentiality that I have, that I can do the same. That I have potential for evil as well, like we all do as human beings. Okay, David, please.
Yeah, I've referred to the church a few times, and I find it hard to do that in a way where I talk about them kindly. But they've done amazing things in the last 12,000 years. They provided shelter and community. And, I had a very religious upbringing. I suppressed myself in that upbringing. So I struggle a bit to talk cleanly, and I wanted to acknowledge that, because it may sound, well, I do sound about them,
Yeah, and
but I'm talking to people in the church now who notice some difference has happened to me, and they're curious. So I am working out how to talk to religious people about divinity, because that's all they're looking for.
Yes.
And they're not being gifted the tools to find it. The majority, the majority of people have walked away from the church because they experience no divinity there.
Yes. That would explain it, because there's no soul's not being sustained.
It's not being gifted divine love, like through your channel. There isn't this divine energy starting to emanate out of your body, and your mind isn't clarifying itself, and your words aren't becoming more beautiful, and like you're not rejoicing at the smell of the fabric in the morning. And if your religion's not giving you that, then there is a question about, well, what are they teaching you?
You can see that there's, with the church as the institution as it is in our system, right, or the institutions, I mean, because it's multiple, obviously, you can see that there's something wrong there, because they're not happy, right? If you look at the priest, the preacher in front of them, they're not happy. The people in the church, they're not happy. They all look as if they're very guilty or ashamed, or why am I here, or like it's and that's not what it's about, right? It's like, we can have heaven on earth. We can live a life in peace and love, right? And we are here to be happy, not to sit somewhere and whatever, fill in tax returns and go to church on a Sunday to be miserable. That's not what life is like, what we are here to actually experience.
Yes.
I mean, it's part of it, obviously. It's all part of it, but the purpose of it is, the purpose of life is not that. So we can change that if we spot that.
Yes. And I just got to say, when you say church, I also hear Islam, like the structures within Islam, and also the structures say within Judaism, and then I think of how Zionism is, because that's not Zionism, distinct from Judaism, is not, Zionism is not preaching peace. It is a orthodoxy of separation. And I just want to say that a couple of months ago, I interviewed an Orthodox rabbi, ultra-Orthodox rabbi, and I said to him, what's your solution? What's your solution to this? And he said, one state where Palestinians and Muslims and Christians and Jews live together as one people.
Yeah.
Zionism is not Judaism. It was a fabulous interview. It was eye-opening for me. I didn't know there was that conversation, but it makes complete sense, because whether it's Islam or Hinduism or Christianity or Judaism, and all the other religions that I don't know, I think it speaks to what's underneath all of it all is love or energy or spirituality or the divine or whatever it is you want to, however we express it. Now, you talked about other languages. I said, well, I'm not ready yet, but I think I'm ready now. So there's Atlantean, and then opening up allows other forms of communication to come through.
Well, the good old phrase, my word creates my world.
Yeah.
So if I speak English, it's a very flat language. My personal assessment doesn't create a very spectacular environment for everyone to live their lives in.
Oh, and it's separating. It's super separating.
Yeah.
If I manage to speak a language which is multidimensional, which engages my soul, spiritual realm, every single aspect to me, connects with nature, and 12,000 people start speaking these light languages that are multidimensional and involve the soul and nature, and maybe our world might start to look a bit different. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning.
Okay.
Because my word creates my world.
Yes.
And so I think well, I think it's...
Okay. I'm thinking in English, but if I were to express my reaction to what you're saying, it'd be like this. What? You know, what? It's a whole other paradigm. And the only language I have is the language of English, really. That then doesn't give me access to that. And then I think of I think it was the Mayans or the Aztecs or South American people. They didn't have a written script. They used string in knots. They tied knots. That's how they kept accounts. And this string that had this knots. What?
Well, maybe because you just, like, sometimes you forget things, you know, so you just need to tie a piece of string.
Maybe I do, right? Depends how long it is, of course, David.
Depends how much stuff you want to remember.
Yeah. Well, yes.
I love this. Rich. It's like that's my waking world. Like, half the time my brain is just melting inside my head because I gave up protesting, but my brain still goes, no, I don't fucking believe this shit. But then it gets so good. Like, the experience of life gets so unbelievably good. I consider this to be the best life I have ever had. And my wildest dreams, my life is looking better than I ever dreamed it could.
And you had a great life. You
upwards,
certainly,
right?
I think.
So my brain just keeps melting, and it's like, it doesn't make sense, but it just keeps getting better.
Yeah, I get it. And certainly from what I know of your life before the Grenfell and all the work that you've done at Landmark, and from my own experience of all the work I've done at Landmark, it's a really, really great life. But you're now saying there's something way beyond that, which is multidimensional, which my dimensional interpretation of reality through English doesn't give me access to. But I can through channeling. And go on, Alenka.
Well, I wouldn't say, because obviously who watches this video is going to be English speaking, and don't think that you're separate because you're English speaking, right? I mean, I speak English, I speak German, I don't really speak Atlantean yet, just a bit. Like it starts coming through, but it's like what you can all do is, if you want to open up for different languages, right? You just start speaking to your heart and say, right, can we please make this possible, right? Can we, like, let's open up and make something else come through. And then just keep repeating that like a mantra, right? Habit change, 30 days, right? Just keep going. Just speak to, like if you speak to angels, or guides, or whatever you have, you speak to, or your teddy bear, or right, just talk to basically you, and the bigger you, right, the more there is of you, and just ask for some support to get you going, basically, and then wait and see what happens.
Okay.
Because it doesn't mean that you have to. And then
No.
there's also that we all have different roles, right? So in this change and transition, right, not everybody needs to channel like David does, or like Lee Harris does, or like, we all have different positions. That's just the way it is. Right? We don't all have to do the same things in the same way, because that's not how it works. So we all have our different paths. We are at the stages where we are, and this is not about being better or worse or la la la. It's just, that's the process, and it's all good. But that's something you could do if you want to.
It's about discovery. So I think it's just about discovery,
Yeah,
experiential discovery.
Yeah,
and then I suppose being willing,
yeah,
and being willing to let go of what I know or
Yeah.
think to be true,
Yeah.
in order to discover what else there is outside of that.
yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
As we are approaching the final frontier. So I look at people's relationship to God as the final frontier of the old system. So I read a great book by Dr. David Hawkins. I always called him Professor because he's that good.
Mhm.
It's a book called Power versus Force, and I read his book called Letting Go and The Eye of the Eye. He's written some astounding books. He reached a state of enlightenment. He came back down and he wrote about the process. And I read it and I followed it religiously for years, what he wrote. Now I forget why I started that conversation, which happens to me.
The final frontier,
Yes,
the
the final
relationship to God of people.
Yes. So he talks about levels of consciousness. And as you get higher in levels of consciousness, it becomes more about your relationship to divinity. And that's where we get stuck as human beings. We've been sold a pup. We've been sold a dud. We were told this is our relationship to God through these models, Islam, Christianity, Judaism. And unfortunately, the man you spoke to, the rabbi, has done a very good job of getting himself in a good place where he can feel divinity. And his words are beautiful. A lot of the models we're taught, they don't allow us to think for ourselves. They don't allow us to connect to divinity. And so I say it's the final frontier because when all the systems collapse is when people realize the relationship to God is not what we've been taught.
Okay. When all the systems collapse, how and when will they collapse? And could you please hurry up?
Yeah, can you tell me? But it's part of the process, right? And I don't mean to. I'm not going to be explicit about timescales. That's not the job. And none of us actually know exactly what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. That's a bit of a mystery. What I do know is when you shift your relationship to divinity, such that you realize it's within you and no one's being persecuted and no one's out to get you and there's nothing wrong with you and there's nothing wrong with it. Things just start to shift.
And the global change, right? That is also our choice, all of our choice, right? Everyone who listens, everyone here, right? Everyone out there. If we choose this to happen, then it happens faster. If we still bumble around la 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 for another 3 years, that it's just, it's the human choice as well, and how we act, what do we do or not do, that also makes it faster or slower.
Okay. Now I know we're recording this on the 1st of April, and there are some, I don't know, significant there's some particular astrological events. The lunar eclipse on March the 25th, and then the solar eclipse on April the 8th, which is making an X across the United States, and then also April the 20th, Uranus conjuncts Jupiter. I don't know what it means to conjunct, but it's a big deal. And then apparently that the way the planets are arranged hasn't happened for 2,000-3,000 years or something, perhaps even longer. Then Pluto returning back to where it was 200 odd years ago. when we had the French Revolution and the American Revolution, and a move against top-down control to greater decentralization and greater liberty. Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so everything's possible.
Yes.
Yes.
But how do, I mean, for somebody who thinks, and I'm just open to, I don't know. But for somebody who thinks that astrology is just pure bunkum and fairy tale and everything, what is it about shifts in planets and their positioning and the shift in our solar system against the galaxy that some people say is going to affect all these changes?
As energy.
Well, if you think about the planet as being the bottom of the well, there's not a lot of light at the bottom of the well. The top of the well you could consider is the core of our galaxy. There's a lot of light up there. What I'm expecting to happen is our planet's going to rise. I don't know if it's going to rise physically or whether that's metaphorical. People talk about this process called ascension that the world's going through. I'm uncertain whether it physically rises or just energetically rises, but we will experience more light on this planet. That's what I believe is going to happen.
Okay, and by light you're referring to energy, different, not just the visible spectrum, but different forms of energy. Because I did go to a talk by David Icke a few months ago, and one of the things he said is about how vast the electromagnetic spectrum is. It's actually much vaster than my screen can cover, right? And that as human beings, we have access to a tiny percentage of it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we think all of reality is in that tiny percent that we can see and hear. We don't hear what dogs hear. We don't read the world the way dolphins or bats can read the world. We don't see flowers the way bees see flowers. But we think that this is all of it.
Well, maybe we could go, whoop. That'd be interesting.
That would be interesting. That would be very interesting. And what can people do to go, whoop?
They can meditate. The fastest route is to feel your emotions fully. And yeah.
Feel your emotions fully.
Yes, to not resist any thought or feeling that arises in your body. But you have to take the time and pay the attention to notice all the things I feel and don't feel, and not to resist. And if it's like, well, I don't want to do this anyway, and why just feel that to begin. And just to pay attention to that. And if you do that for 10 years, then you get really good results.
Okay. Is it possible to accelerate this through the use of psychotropics, ayahuasca, and?
Of course, I would use my guidance about who I might choose to do those things with and which substances I might choose to take, because it's tricky. That's a tricky field to navigate. Doesn't mean one shouldn't do that.
Okay.
There isn't one right or wrong, and it's like I haven't done ayahuasca, and I did my work pretty fast over the last 1.5 years about. So I did leaps in my development without ayahuasca, so not everything. I do smoke weed from time to time, like organically grown by a friend, like great stuff. And it's not the shit that knocks you out, it's not this high potent, what is it? It's natural. It's very like he's very like into things being natural and like the original form, so it's not, I don't knock myself out. I don't know how ayahuasca works, but I know it's very intense. It's rather fast what you do there. And it's all like people have to decide that, like what David said, like you have to follow your own guidance. It's not, and everything is not for everyone, and it's like everyone has their own path, right? And how you get there and what tools you might be good for you is something you find out when you listen.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, no problem. Okay.
And of course, we do run a light language school where we do trainings and we do walks and talks and retreats. So people are welcome to get in touch.
Yes, and I'll have the links in the description below. Is there anything else you want to say or cover that we haven't talked about that you think would be important for people to know?
I just get my crystal. I sat We have lovely crystals on Gozo. This is just like hanging around in the garden, Lenka's last flat.
And what's so special about crystals?
They resonate, and they just there's certain stones that I found on Gozo, one of which I call the Infinity Stone. I meditate with it. It's almost like through that stone I can access any human experience because it's been around for it's sat outside for the last 12,000 years, as far as I can work out, and it's just seen and felt everything.
That's extraordinary.
And
That's
it's like a piece of, you hit it, it's a rock, but it's like a piece of lead. It feels like it's lead, but it's made of rock. It's very peculiar.
okay. Now, if people go and access these new powers, these new energies or something, they're not new, these dormant powers or whatever, right? This new
Yeah.
energy, they go and do your course, they're able to channel. Then what? Then what can they do with these powers or capacities?
Well, that depends on each one's purpose, right? But they can find that purpose and they can live it. They can live a divine life.
We have a friend called Patrick, and he had a dream of setting up a center where people would come and they would have beautiful experiences. And he's lived his whole life, and he is very gifted. It's I just don't like to use the medical term given to people that have gifts. So he's on purpose. Um, I don't know a better way of describing purpose. It's that we're all given gifts.
Well,
So
it's like
yeah,
Fulfill a life in service of something greater than oneself.
exactly. So it's like he calls it cyber temple. It's a space where people can offer their services, and he like yoga classes, like sound healing, like some whatever ceremonies or talks, or whoever wants to teach about whatever, like good things to bring us all like up basically. And he's an amazing vegan chef, and he wants to make that accessible, right? Because he feels that that veganism is sort of put away, because like, yeah, you're not never ever full, like, and I can't, like, I'm still hungry, and it's not working, and I need other things, and but if you cook vegan well, like with supplementing stuff and everything, and it's so amazing to eat with him. It's divine, right? It's a divine experience. Like your taste buds just go nuts. It's incredible. And so, and he wants to do more of that then, right, when the space is open again. And so that's his purpose, is to have like to create this space where again other people can do service. And our purpose is what we're going to do on like the services we have, like the retreats and the sessions and the course and the walks and all, to bring people like to their own power, and yeah, and to the land, to for them to be able to remember and connect again. And yeah, and that can happen. I mean, yeah, that's the idea.
Okay. David?
yeah. What I was going to say is not everyone knows what their purpose is today. So that's a very peculiar thing. Also, it's like it's often closed off to us until we get close enough to it. So we have to go through our process of healing or other dimensions or other lives or other things or our family. And then as we close out those different aspects that have been unresolved for us, suddenly the purpose just, oh my God, like well, in my case, I've got to move to an island in the Mediterranean I've never been before. And then why am I going there? And I just somewhere dormant in my mind was there's an ancient civilization you have to go and research. I'm like, what are you talking about? But I went here and I did some research and I found an ancient civilization and now I'm talking about it, right? So, but I didn't, and I didn't know what my ultimate purpose might be in doing that. That was like a 3-year period. So you get glimmers and you get glimpses. And so you talked about psilocybin or ayahuasca or retreats or therapy. Sometimes we just get this sense there's something I'm meant to be doing. Those are the thoughts to seize, like that's divinity, that's your intuition, that's your highest power. It's talking to you quietly, that's the path. And the more we follow the path, the clearer it becomes.
Okay, very good.
And then all the gifts are in service.
Yeah, so there's so much more to discover, including our own purpose. Thank you.
Yeah, when we step into that purpose, then the full support and comes in by the universe, right? I mean, you've heard of that we are, I mean, we are always supported and provided for, right? But due to the system we live in right now, we have always this sense of lack, and I have to work and I have to do this to get money to be able to pay my rent and my bread and my whatever shopping and my car and my law. And but like to come out of this fear state, basically this constant stress, right? I mean, if you're not one of them who has, I mean, if you have enough, that's great. Then you might not be in that fear state. But like when you step into your purpose, you don't need to like worry about those things anymore. Like you don't have to look after that constantly, because you will be provided for in the right moment. The right thing will happen that will give the solution to whatever you needed, you know. And it's yeah, I was going to mention before, but that's you can find that on our website. Then there's the blog section. It's quite interesting to read, and there we do publish the Galactic Times, which gives a bit more insight maybe on what people want to know about the future.
Okay, all right. And then you said you have a YouTube channel. I didn't know that, but
We have a YouTube channel. Yeah, that's we did a series of calls where we did healing work on the land and ourselves. Was a group of changing people. But yeah, they are published there, and they have all those ceremonies, the light language in there. So they are, yeah. If one listens to those, they have effects, right? The light language always has an effect. If you listen to it recorded 3 years later, it doesn't matter. It's still gonna work.
okay.
So, but it's not like your channel. It's a bit different.
I don't know
Or
what
not yet.
I think what you're doing is not like anything I do at all, right? But okay. Now, something that you reminded me of, Alenka, is David, you do healings. And I know you've offered me a healing for a minor health issue that I'm dealing with that I haven't started, right? But, and also a very good friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, has had a healing with you. So how does that work, and what sort of stuff can you support people with? And what sort
talk,
of
Alenka?
led?
Yeah, sure. I mean, basically anything. But that sounds maybe a bit daft or something. It's because we work with the light language, right? So you get what you need from that, and it can help you move forward much faster than just talking to a therapist in English. I mean, this is I don't want to make anyone wrong, right? Going to a therapist can be very, very helpful. I did a lot of therapy in my life, right? So this is not about it's just that the light language, what I said before, right? Because it speaks directly through directly to your soul. It just supports any healing that you need, basically, right? Be it from sleep problems and what's the source, right? You don't the cause for that, right? Why can't you sleep, right? So that's things to look at, and then the light language just sort of helps to lead a lot of things.
I take it it's a sort of energetic healing, right? Getting that somehow that you're a conduit for light, these energies, or something that does something with my energies, with my vibrations.
Well, it definitely it just helps you open up more, connect more, and be more in touch with you, and then I mean, it's about activating your self-healing, right? That you come to the position of you are well connected with your guidance, so you find the right things that you need, right? Be it a session with us or with someone else, you know. I mean, there's so many therapists and good healers out there. That's like so. And sometimes, I mean, I even had a painkiller the other day after an accident. That was like my first painkiller in my life. But I took it because it was just in that moment it was the right thing to do, because my foot was just, you know, and then it was fine. It was one, and that's it. So things like that, right? To find out a balance, right? Out of the system, to say it like that. but into like a healthy way, right? For everyone, right? And basically, it's always our own body that heals us. I mean, it always comes from us healing. It never comes from any doctor or any therapist or anything. It's always coming from inside, and it's unlocking sort of and making it happen, making it easier, accessible for you or each one.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's really good, Lenka. Listen to you, I'm reminded of the pharmaceutical industry, which is definitely a system of control. And I say this having done a little bit of research in the history of it and how it came to pass, thanks to Rockefeller, that we're using pharmaceuticals and he got rid of traditional medical forms of healing, and ones that human beings have been using since antiquity. Okay. All right, guys, and if people want to do the healing, they can find out through the link. And I understand that you'll take payment in fiat, but also in crypto.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
exactly.
right. All right, all right, David.
Because we're stepping out of the system. So if you don't want to pay in cash, because the peculiarity about the government in the UK, anyway, I don't know about America, they're attempting to tax you if you make gains in crypto, which is illegal because they don't own crypto.
No, it's not illegal because they have a right to everything that we do. They have a right to.
Oh, I thought it's a sense of humor. I've had a moment there.
That's right.
Not illegal.
So yes, we take payment in crypto, right? Because it's just an alternative. It's good.
Yeah. It's decentralized tokenized energy versus centralized fraudulent tokenized
criminal activity.
That's right, tokenized criminal activity.
I mean, if you don't mind me saying, I came to the conclusion that we all live in a kleptocracy.
Yes.
You're familiar with the term. There was, I can't remember the name of the author, but he wrote it after the Peterloo massacre. And he came to that conclusion. I think it was the end 17 or 1800s that Britain was a kleptocracy then. And, well, it's just on steroids now.
Yeah, that's and to bring it into the whole thing about currency and energy, to bring them together, currency and money. So if I start with the principle that everything is energy, this physicalness that I see or whatever or experience is actually just concentrated energy in a particular form, and the gap between us is energy, and that we're talking to each other through electric energy, and light is energy, and everything's energy, and sound is energy, and all is energy. And money, gold, silver, Bitcoin, is energy that's been tokenized. So my labor that I invest in something to produce something I can exchange for tokenized energy. That's money. Money, silver, gold, Bitcoin. Fiat currency didn't take any energy to create. Just press
made it up.
Just made it up. So that's where it's a kleptocracy, because they are stealing our energy. They have, and they're fabricating fraudulent energy. And that can
what are you going to do? I mean, I'd have a go at that if I could.
Yeah, I would.
It's free stuff.
I mean, how could you not resist? I mean,
I could have a nice house.
Oh my God, David, as good and as noble as I try to be or say that I am, right? You know the Cantillon effect. The Cantillon effect is that whoever is closest to the source of money has the greatest leverage. So the Bitcoin miners have more leverage over Bitcoin than the retail customers at the end of the line. And gold miners have more leverage over gold, right? But with fiat currency, who has the most leverage is those that produce the fiat, the central banks. Except it takes no energy. As a Bitcoin miner, one is I can't produce more Bitcoin than there is because of the way the code. And they say I can't create more gold. I still have to work bloody hard to get the gold out of the mine. But with fiat currency, oh my God, the Cantillon effect is so seductive. Yeah, I do that. I get more than a nice amount. Yeah, press some more, press some more. I'd help you out, David. Here's some more you can have, David, because you're a mate of mine. And you give some to Alenka, and Alenka, you can have some too. So then we get this class of kleptocrats who are stealing everything. And a time is going to come where the kleptocrats are going to be printing fiat using the advantage the Cantillon effect gives them in order to buy gold and Bitcoin.
Ah,
That'd be us then. I mean, if we get to printing.
If we get to printing, that's right. That's what I would do. Okay, David, Alenka, anything else you want to say?
no,
Well,
it's beautiful to talk with you.
No,
Yeah.
thank you so much. I've so enjoyed it. It's been completely mind-boggling and baffling. I'll
Yeah,
have
it
the
was.
links to your stuff in the description below. Really, really appreciate it. And maybe at some point, love to have you back on.
Of course.
Sure.
And
Yeah, it
between
would
now
be
and when I
lovely. And if anyone has any questions, right, just reach
Yes,
out.
yes, yes.
Like,
Yes.
don't be shy.
won't be shy. And if anybody wants to find out, the links in the description below. Between now and when I see you next, please keep filling your pockets with lightness and love.
Yeah.
Rich in Crypto, David in Crypto, Alenka signing out. All the best. Bye-bye.
You're rich. I just get my crystal. We have lovely crystals on Gozo. This is just like hanging around in the garden, the Lenka's last flat.
And what's so special about crystals?
They resonate, and there's certain stones that I found on Gozo, one of which I call the Infinity Stone. I meditate with it. It's almost like through that stone I can access any human experience, because it's been around it's sat outside for the last 12,000 years, as far as I can work out, and it's just seen and felt everything.
That's extraordinary.
And it's like a piece of, you hit it, it's a rock, but it's like a piece of lead. It feels like it's lead, but it's made of rock. It's very peculiar.
Okay. Now, if people go and access these new powers, these new energies or something, they're not new, these dormant powers or whatever, right? This new energy, they go and do your course, they're able to channel. Then what? Then what can they do with these powers or capacities?
Well, that depends on each one's purpose, right? But they can find that purpose and they can live it. They can live a divine life.
We have a friend called Patrick, and he had a dream of setting up a center where people would come and they would have beautiful experiences. And he's lived his whole life, and he is very gifted. I just don't like to use the medical term given to people that have gifts. So he's on purpose. I don't know a better way of describing purpose. It's that we're all given gifts.
Well, it's like
Yeah.
Fulfill a life in service of something greater than oneself.
Exactly. So it's like he calls it cyber temple. It's a space where people can offer their services, and he like yoga classes, like sound healing, like some whatever ceremonies or talks, or whoever wants to teach about whatever, like good things to bring us all like up basically. And he's an amazing vegan chef, and he wants to make that accessible, right? Because he feels that that veganism is sort of put away, because like, yeah, you're not never ever full, like, and I can't, like, I'm still hungry, and it's not working, and I need other things, and but if you cook vegan well, like with supplementing stuff and everything, and it's so amazing to eat with him. It's divine, right? It's a divine experience. Like your taste buds just go nuts. It's incredible. And and he wants to do more of that then, right, when the space is open again. And so that's his purpose, is to have like create this space where again other people can do service. And our purpose is what we're going to do on like the services we have, like the retreats and the sessions and the course and the walks and all, to bring people like to their own power, and yeah, and to the land, for them to be able to remember and connect again. And yeah, so and that can happen. I mean, yeah, that's the idea.
Okay, David.
Yeah, what I was going to say is not everyone knows what their purpose is today. So that's a very peculiar thing also. It's like it's often closed off to us until we get close enough to it. So we have to go through our process of healing, or other dimensions, or other lives, or other things, or our family. And then as we close out those different aspects that have been unresolved for us, suddenly the purpose just oh my God, like I've got to, well, in my case, I've got to move to an island in the Mediterranean I've never been before. And then why am I going there? And I just somewhere dormant in my mind was there's an ancient civilization you have to go and research. I'm like, what are you talking about? But I went here and I did some research and I found an ancient civilization and now I'm talking about it, right? So, but I didn't, and I didn't know what my ultimate purpose might be in doing that. That
Yeah.
was like a 3-year period. So you get glimmers and you get glimpses. And so you talked about psilocybin or ayahuasca or retreats or therapy. Sometimes we just get this sense there's something I'm meant to be doing. Those are the thoughts to seize, like that's divinity, that's your intuition, that's your highest power. It's talking to you quietly, that's the path. And the more we follow the path, the clearer, the clearer, the clearer, the clearer it becomes.
Okay, very good.
And then all the gifts are in service.
Yeah, so there's so much more to discover, including our own purpose. Thank you.
Yeah, when we step into that purpose, then the full support and comes in by the universe, right? I mean, you've heard of that, that we are, I mean, we are always supported and provided for, right? But due to the system we live in right now, we have always this sense of lack, and I have to work and I have to do this to get money to be able to pay my rent and my bread and my whatever shopping and my car and my law. And but like to come out of this fear state, basically this constant stress, right? I mean, if you're not one of them who has, I mean, if you have enough, that's great. Then you might not be in that fear state. But like when you step into your purpose, you don't need to like worry about those things anymore. Like you don't have to look after that constantly, because you will be provided for in the right moment. The right thing will happen that will give the solution to whatever you needed, you know. And it's yeah, it's quite incredible.